Yes, it's a great pleasure to welcome you all here in Ingolstadt on our stage. My name is Anne-Sophie Kopetinsky.
And my name is Harald Göllinger. And together we are the managing team of the AWARE Center here at Technische Hochschule Ingolstadt. Warm welcome.
So this is the very first time that we offer an event totally virtually. And for those who don't know us, we usually organize events in Bavaria and in Latin America with our partners, just to promote cooperation, international exchange, and to get connected to partners in Latin America. So unfortunately, due to the crisis this year, we had to cancel all our events. And just to stay connected, we said, let's develop Aware and Share. And this week has been really super exciting for us to observe how many people from all over the globe came to join us to our sessions. And I just want to welcome just a few, it's really amazing. I welcome from Argentina, from Brazil, from Chile, Costa Rica, Colombia, Mexico, Panama, Peru, Uruguay, India, Indonesia, Turkey, Sweden, Spain, France, Italy, Switzerland, and of course, Germany. So I'm really impressed, and I have to say, even if I generally prefer the face-to-face networking, I really start to like the virtual exchange as well.
Well, Anne-Sophie, you said that we are totally virtual, but well, that's not true. Here we are, live on stage with our close network partner, Pixida. Welcome to you. And well, we captured our empty or nearly empty restaurant here at THI. And we decided to offer you a little stage show, at least for the last session. So today's topic is IoT and agility, hype or chance. We will get up-to-date insights of everyday projects of our partner Pixida. Pixida supported our event, and so I would like to say a big thank you to you for the support, and I'm happy to have you here in Ingolstadt. I would also like to welcome Manuel Steidle from 30 Research Foundation, who is joining us from Brazil. Hello, Manuel. He will add his Brazilian perspective of IoT on IoT chances. I'm also very grateful for his long-lasting cooperation with 30 Foundation. Thanks to you, Manuel. But it's not only us five doing this session. Please give us your insights as well. Just a few words how you can interact with us. Please switch off your mix and your camera. You can ask questions during the presentations via chat. We will collect your questions and ask them to the speakers directly afterwards.
So in the last sessions, our approach was the academic point of view. This time we want to share an insight to industry point of views. So our very first presentation will approach IoT from a business model perspective. It is about IoT, mobility insurance in the digital era. So I welcome Dr. Matthias Herz, Product Manager at Pi Labs. And Mr. Herz, the stage is yours.
Well, thanks you, first of all, for the very well welcome. Feels like home here, sitting here together and seeing some persons outside the home, to be honest. But before I dive into the topic which I want to tackle today, so talking about mobility insurance in the digital era and how technology can enable new art tariffs, how insurers can get to the customers, I want to spend a few words on Pi Labs and Pixida, just to give a basic understanding what this is, because I'm working as product manager for Pi Labs. And Pi Labs is part of the Pixida group, and that is an international group of companies across the globe. So talking about the US, Brazil, China, with 2 subsidiary offices over the globe here, with deep expertise when it comes to technology consulting. And for us as technology provider, as Pi Labs, it's pretty good to have such a backing when we are developing IoT products. But that's, I guess, enough when we're talking about the companies itself. Let's tackle the topic itself. So talking about mobility insurance in the digital era. And again, I have to start with a disclaimer. I'm not an insurance expert. So if anybody out there was hoping that I could tell about the newest trends and the best deals that you might have next year with your mobility insurance, I have to disappoint you. I guess you will have other experts for that. But what I'm trying to deliver today is the perspective of a technology delegate for the insurance industry, because we as Pilabs are delivering technology for the insurance industry to enable new tariffs, new models, just to create extra benefits for companies and users as well. And that's what is about the huge globe of what you might call usage-based insurance, which has been a huge topic since the 2010 years, where there's been a lot of tries out, failure, successes, bootstrapping phases. And by now we want to start with the topic that UBI is here to stay. And of course, we as technology provider are posting the statement because we believe in it, but it's not just that we are saying this. Huge insurers are also saying, we know by now how we make money out of it, how we can create extra value out of technology and the models that we create. Plus, we have several forecasts, like I show here in the slide, from research in markets by the end of the year 2019, which says until 2027, the market will grow about 5 times the size that it is today. And I want to start to give a brief overview about what UBI actually is. And since it's supposed to be a short talk, I'm just gonna scrap the surface a little bit, what this actually is, starting with what people know perhaps as pay as you drive. And that is something which is easy to understand. You drive with your car, and for every kilometer that you drive, you will pay some kind of an insurance rate or fee. And by that, you will say, that's the total fee and amount that you have to pay. If you look at this, it's not so complex. You might say you could even do this by the end of the year to say to your customers, please tell me your mileage, what you have been driving, and we're fine. But you can also use technology to create positive touch points. You can say, look at this, by the end of the month, you have saved so much compared to a standard tariff that you had. And now you're able to create positive touch points with your customers, which had 1 or 2 a year normally. So, and that is once a year when they are thinking about changing the insurer, which is not such a nice event for the insurer itself, or when they have an accident, and that's not a positive touch point either. When we come to more complex use cases like pay how you drive tariffs, it gets a little bit more complicated, because then you have to create some kind of, you might say, behavioral profile. So how did you behave on the streets? Have you been a good driver, a safe driver? How have your maneuvers that you have been using while driving all the time? So did you have a lot of harsh braking, acceleration events? And based upon these data, you'll have a driver scoring. And this driver scoring will be decisive for the rate that you pay. And you see by now all the categories that we have by now, like how old you are, which car you're driving, where you come from, it's not sufficient anymore to come to these kind of tariffs. You need technology to deliver the data to come to these conclusions. And I want to end with another example, which Professor Transchel from Hochschule Harz introduced in a joint presentation that we had at Versicherungsfonds Leipzig this year, which he called Pay Where You Drive, where you say it's no longer relevant where you come from, it's relevant where you're driving to. So let's assume you're driving a road which is pretty prone for deer accidents, or in winter, it's really dangerous to drive there because there are lots of accidents normally. This might have a negative impact on your driver score, or you're driving the same route every time, you know it, it's a highway, which gives you a very positive impact on the rate. And again, even more complexity of data that you have to tackle. And you see by now, you can't do this just by asking some dates from your users. You have to gather these data by yourself. And that's where we as technology providers come in, because there are several models how you could do this. You could start with a pure mobile application. And that is the most basic approach how you can get near to telematics insurance tariffs, which says you're creating a mobile app which is getting the data from the onboard sensors of a mobile phone. On first sight, it's the lowest invest, because creating a mobile app using the technology and the hardware that your customers have is pretty nice. Plus the acceptance is pretty good. We are all used to install all kinds of apps on our mobile phones, and we don't really care about which kind of data they take. On second thought, it might be that you come to certain limitations when it comes to the analytics potential, because you have a huge variety of devices out there in the market, which means you have to find out how reliable the data is. And when you come into more complex use cases, you might consider if you might want to take more sophisticated solutions, like, for example, hybrid solutions, where you install some kind of a hardware, like a beacon or a tag, inside the car, which is a fixed solution, which is an identifier which bonds to a mobile phone. It's a slightly higher invest, but you'll have more analytics potential because such devices are, on one side, they are identifiers, so who is actually driving. On the other hand, if they gather data by themselves, you have a much more reliable and comparable database that you can use for your tariffs. And as a last option that I want to show is standalone devices, which means you have devices which have all sensors and connectivity on board at best, which means you have, of course, the highest invest, but at the same time, you have the highest analytics potential because the complexity of devices, which I was talking when we are coming to mobile apps, goes down to one. You have one solution, one device, and you know where this is going. And by that, obviously, you have the largest potential when it comes to analytics, when it comes to the reliability of the data, and by offering extra services, such as, for example, crash detection, because these devices are made for doing so. And that's how you can realize really complex business cases on your own. Talking about how these things get to reality, and this is what we as a technology partner are asking ourselves all the time, and me as a product manager, it's basically my job to do so. So how are high-performing telematics products supposed to be designed so that we fit these market needs? And I might say we learned some lessons. And we didn't install a frame in the office by now, but we might do so in the future to say, how is a good technology solution supposed to look like? And the first lesson that we learned might sound a little bit trivial to say it must be a tight fit for an insurance product. But there's much more complexity behind it. You have to understand how this technology has to fit an actually insurance product. And as I said in the beginning, we are no insurers, but we have to understand how the market is evolving, where it's heading, and of course, what kind of potentials we can unlock with technology. And we could say, with all our enthusiasts and engineers who are in the office, build the best product you can have, and then it's going to have everything, but it's going to be way too expensive. Nobody's going to buy it, obviously. So we always have to understand where we are heading here. In a second lesson that we had, deliver comparable data reliably. And that's one of our foundations where PyLabs is based upon. We are dedicated to the mission to deliver technology that does exactly that. We want to deliver comparable data at the best quality that we can have, because if the database is questionable that you have, your results will be as well. And that's why we believe in hardware. That's why we believe in technology that we are delivering here to deliver to our customers the best quality that they can have for their products as well. And a third step, products have to be transparent and easy to integrate. And when we're talking about transparency to these products, there's a huge, huge topic behind it. So let's start with data ownership. There's lots of data that's being created. Who owns the data? Transparency, what is happening with these data, how it's processed, where is it stored, and so on and so on. How am I supposed to deliver this to my customers? And when we're talking about customers here, it's the users, so the customers of the insurers who want to know what is happening with my data here, because of course I'm paying less for my rate, but I want to understand why. And insurers have to understand to explain why they do so. And that's even more important to us, it has to be easy to integrate, because that's one of our second principle when we're delivering hardware. We don't build lock-ins, which means you can have comprehensive solutions out of our house, but you can also just use 1, 2, 3 components to build up your much more complex solution, which might be a fit for your individual need. Because we understood that in these times when complexity is increasing, it's not so unlikely that the solutions come out of several hands, and we want to be a partner for these complex solutions and want to integrate our solutions as easy as possible. And the last but not least, and that's really tough and important, reduce contact and reaction times, because if the case happens and there's an accident or your customers need you, you have to be there at stake at the moment. This means you have to have services like automated e-calls. You have to have interaction possibilities like e-calls, service calls, and so on. And that's what we will deliver with our technology. And I want to give you a few examples how we realized this. Starting with our standalone client, which is called TIX. So telematics intelligence meets security. And the focus on this standalone solution that we delivered here is to give detailed and comparable data to our customers. And all of this in a reliable standalone solution. So what you have here is in a 12-volt plug device, you're going to have all sensors on board that you need, plus you're going to have the connectivity on board that you need. So you get all you need to get started right away, and you're going to have real-time interaction with your customers just with the ability to have eCall, bCall, freely configurable button, and it goes down to complexity how we describe it here. Plug this device, you're going to have a secure data transfer, make data-driven decision, done, and we go there. We've proven this by deploying a one-click deployment, which means customers who buy this device are able to use it 5 minutes after they installed it, because we do all the magic behind it. We can even set up the backend for them. And just with a second example, and then I will come to an end, is a hybrid solution that we delivered, and that's the safety tag, where we have the explicit claim to simplify safety. We want to offer powerful features at a reasonable price with a lower invest when it comes to hybrid solutions. So get trip detection, crash detection, fraud detection, maneuver recognition out of such a device, which you can bond to your mobile phone, and therefore level up the mobile application services that you already have, for example, in your company, and integrate them with an SDK, so a system development kit that we deliver as well. Have a long-lasting battery life. This device is going to last for about 3 years, and you don't have to wonder if this works, because we're going to provide over-the-air updates as well. And here again, that's the approach, one of the lessons that we have. Deliver these features out of the box. Our customers are not supposed to worry if this works. They just have to worry how they can give the maximum value to their customers, but they don't have to worry about the technology itself. So I hope I could give a brief overview how our technology provider tries to keep up with the market developments and try to drive them as well, because that's what we're doing. That's what I'm as a product manager. I'm busy to understand all the time, and I'm happy to get in touch with everyone out there who's watching to discuss if there's potential for you, for example, or you have questions, or even, of course, some information or news for us, how we could improve our products in the future. So give me a ping via LinkedIn, write me an email, and thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Hertz. I'm a little bit curious about the thing. So you put Internet of Things into our cars. And one application, or the key application that you have in mind, is for insurance companies. Do you see a potential for the Brazilian market? I've seen that Pixida is also in Brazil.
Of course. So I could make this answer very short, but I want to take much more sentences to that.
The short answer would be yes.
Yeah. So the short answer would be yes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But just to give a quick explanation what this means, we're actually evaluating potentials in the Brazilian market. First, of course, we have our subsidiary there, which are really busy to drive business development there. Plus, we have a lot of interested partners to find out how we could integrate the solutions there. And it's not always just insurance, to be honest. For example, we are working together with an agricultural provider who is thinking if such kind of tracking solutions might be a fit for their huge business that they have there as well.
Right. So you're not only thinking about the private market, but also about fleets, or fleet providers?
Yeah, of course. So when we're looking at the devices that we develop, of course, as I introduced them today, you see that when we're talking about the primary target segment, it's a very close fit to the insurance industry. But let's take the standalone solution that I introduced. You could use it for fleet management, plus we intend that it's used for fleet management, because the hardware that we delivered is paired for us with extra services like trip processing, a trip viewer, and even extra services explicitly developed for fleet management purposes as well. Mm. And that's where we are trying to head, because it's not a one-way road. This technology has so many similarities that we're, of course, we're very busy in understanding how to bring this out to our partners when it's not just the insurance industry.
So it's a little bit of hardware with a lot of potential to do a lot of functionalities. But I'm happy that you still stick to a little bit of hardware and not only software.
As I said, looking at the decision why we believe in hardware, it's something where the market is developing and evolving anyways. When you're looking at the insurance market, insurers started with mobile applications a lot and now tend to get back to hardware solutions because they find out that the analytics potential is much bigger and they see the potentials, plus it gets cheaper.
And I would like to add a question from Immo Feine. I understood that my driving behavior becomes more transparent. Do I have to fear loss of personal data? Is the risk that I have to pay more?
So as I'm not working in an insurance, it's hard for me to predict where it's going, but I can tell you about the status quo, how this is working. When we are talking about the personal data that you are, of course, creating, and which comes to the insurances, it's not like somewhere a guy in the insurance can say, you've been driving from A to B and it's really interesting what you've been doing there. So they won't get these data. They have to get the final score out of it. So of course, there's a lot of privacy regulations behind it so that they can't give the detailed personal data that you're using here. Still, I have to say it's a topic that everybody who is engaging in telematics tariffs has to be aware of. The personal behavior will result, of course, in a score. So it's not perfectly distanced from what you're doing. The second question, so is there a risk that I have to pay more? At least for the German market, that's where I can say it for the big players. It's a clear no, because the insurance companies are working in this way. They are trying to establish these tariffs, which means you will never pay more than with a conventional tariff. And I think the mark that it's set right now is that you can save up to 30% on a regular basis if you're a great driver.
So thanks a lot for your question, Mr. Feine. And thanks a lot for the answers. And I would like to continue with the next speaker.
Yes, thank you, Harald. So our next speaker now will deal with IoT and application in the field of public transportation. So our next speaker is Markus Jungermann. He's Managing Director of Pi Labs. And please, the stage is yours, Mr. Jungermann.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to give us a possibility to be here tonight and give some thoughts about IoT, which is a very broad topic. It's the digitalization and IoT is present in every industry sector we are working with and we are talking to. And today I want to give you a little insight in the public transportation sector as we are working on projects here in Germany and also in Brazil. And there we connected buses and trains with our technology and gave answers to questions which raised up and most likely will more and more rise up in the future. And today I picked some examples for solutions we can deliver. And these are only some examples as the area is very broad and the change in by the digitalization for the public transportation companies is very intense. Not only when it comes to the technology, also when it comes to the processes behind it. So in the end, in these times, especially with Corona, it's quite tough for the public transportation companies as they are having less and less people using it. And also, of course, they're struggling with the income they have, but they still have to keep up the whole system. So saving money is, of course, always a thing, but nowadays especially. And the good thing is when you can do it and also can do something for the environment as well. And that's why it's a very important question is how much fuel do you use? And we analyzed this topic by taking as an example, one bus lane near Munich and compared two drivers driving the same bus route with the same bus type. They're doing the same daytime, so it's very comparable. And you can see here on the right-hand side the driver profiles, and you see a significant difference in it. On the y-axis, you have the speed, and then the x-axis, you have the gas pedal or acceleration pedal status. And as you can see with driver one, even with higher speed, this acceleration pedal is 0, and it's almost not on the full speed sector or full acceleration sector. And so in the end, driver one is driving much more carefully and the bus rolls more and it's not like stop and go, which is a positive effect to the guests on board as well, because it feels much smoother. And with this data, we could prove that driver one uses 15% less fuel than driver two. And that's a significant amount. That's clear money for the public transportation company, and it's good for the environment itself as well. And you can then install, of course, a feedback system in the bus for the driver, who tells the driver you're driving good, or you're not driving good, or watch out, you're going accelerating too fast or braking too harsh. And in the end, you can also, the driver can benefit of it, because there can be a salary bonus system when you participate, and you have something from the money you save for the company for your own. And that's very attractive for the drivers as well. And as mentioned, also for the environment. And in public transportation and political decisions, the environment is of course very important, and that's why also the tendency is in general for the mobility to also shift to the electric mobility, and also for the public transportation, that's the case. And we are getting more and more electric buses here in Europe and worldwide. And there are different challenges coming along with the electromobility, because at the moment, when a bus comes back from its route to the depot, it's quite easy to fuel it up. It's like putting 5 minutes diesel in the tank, and then the bus can take off easily again and drive through the city the whole day. And the tank will never get empty. But this is different, of course, with the electromobility, and as the information how much energy is in the battery left is not so easy to get and to have, and the state of charge is very important, because in the end this is the important thing, if the bus is able to go back to the depot in the end, and how much routes the bus can drive. Not only the route itself, is it a long one or a short one, also how much passengers will be in there, what daytime is it a rush hour, so is it crowded, or is it winter time where you have to heat up the bus with the electric power as well, or in the summertime put on the air condition? And the outside temperature is relevant for that. And so there are a lot of information to combine to know, okay, the bus can go like 3 or 4 more routes, and then it has to come back. And when it comes back, then different challenges appear, because the bus have to have a free available spot to get the batteries loaded. And most likely there are more buses than the possibility to charge them up. And so this has to be planned. When is the time the bus can be there? And if it's stuck there, it's there for like 8 hours until the batteries are full, and it's not so easy to move it. And these processes has to be adapted and the bus depots of the public transportation company, as well as at least in Germany, the energy costs are very much related not only to the amount of energy used or bought, also to the peaks the companies produce, because this is very bad for the energy companies. And so this is also, of course, a thing about the money, but in the end, it's about the process, how you can handle it. And yeah, the change in the way the buses has to be fueled up and drive around through the city. So as mentioned, there are a lot of processes and areas where you can think about what has to be changed, and this data, what do you get and this information out of the data is much relevant for designing these processes and change the way the public transportation is designed or is done. But in the end, it doesn't matter if it is usually gasoline bus or it's an electric bus. They all have to work, and from time to time they get broken, and broken buses are not good for the company, because they cost money when they stay in the workshop. And even if they are driving around on the street and then, for example, a door is not working anymore, it's not closing properly, and this is a security reason, and most of the companies take the bus out of the operating services and exchange it. That's not good for the customers, as well as they have to change the bus and wait. But also it's an effort for the company itself. And that's why it is very important to know about the status of the bus. And there are possibilities in the area of predictive maintenance, what means you are predicting if you have a problem with your bus up front before it happens. So you can act, not react. And of course, there's a lot of data already available in a bus. For example, when you keep to the example of the doors, how often does the door have to close until it's closed properly? Does it take longer for the door to close? But you can also add sensors, connected sensors to the bus, for example, inductive sensors for the engine, the electric engine of the door. And then you can see the power is changing every time the door is closing to the regular one. And then most likely there's something wrong. So you can tell the workshop up front, please have a look next time the bus is in, have a look at the door. There might be an issue with it. And this is also a possibility to pre-order parts for if you have to repair something. And it's a good possibility to be aware if something gets broken in time. And sometimes there are also very individual questions. So we had an issue that the buses had trailers attached, and in the wintertime, the trailers were quite cold. The customers complained a little bit, and the public transportation company wanted to know, is it really that cold, or is it just a subjective impression, or is there something really behind it? And so we put in temperature sensors in the trailers, different ones, and also attached interfaces from the bus to know about the, for example, about the fuel tank of the heating system and so on. And with this data, putting in the cloud, working with data science, we could answer the question, yes, is it cold during winter time, and could bring also directly possibilities how this could be changed and improved for the customer. So this is a end customer satisfaction for being in the bus and feeling comfortable. And it's just an example how connected sensors can help to improve the service of the bus fleet and give objective information about it. So it's not only the customers complaining, you know what in the end is going on. And also interesting what's around the bus, what's in the city. There's the discussion very present, still very relevant about the air quality in the cities, as the pollution is quite high in almost every big city. NO2, CO2, it would be interesting to really know what's going on. And we have a lot of cities there where the measurement stations are quite few of them, and they're fixed on the street, and the rest of the data is calculated, and then there is a prediction how the area really is. So our approach was, as a proof of concept, to put some sensors in a standalone solution powered by a solar panel on the roof of the bus, and let the bus drive around the city, and then from time to time measure the air quality, and have in the end, that was the goal, and have a live map of a city where you can see, okay, there is a big pollution, the air quality in this area is better than in that area, and bring all this data live in the cloud. So this is connected via Bluetooth to our interface, and the data from the sensors are brought into the cloud. That's a good example for also connected sensor solutions, and a very relevant one for our whole society, I guess. And yeah, this is still a proof of concept. The results are quite positive, and we're working together with different companies and also official parts here. Then how we did all this. So this is our product we called IoT Gateway, which is placed in the buses, but also can connect quite of everything you can imagine. We have a lot of interfaces on there. Of course, it has a LTE modem in there to bring the data in the cloud. It has Wi-Fi and stuff and so on. And it has a quite flexible input-output, so you can kind of attach everything. We also attached machines and anything you can imagine, and even also the buses. And this gateway, brings the data into the cloud, but there's a lot of data, and it's so much data over a whole day. The bus goes through the city, it sums up. So if you take one bus, it's like you can have easily a half of gigabyte of data per day. And of course, there will be also the computing time behind it, which costs in the end money. So it's not only the transmission of the data, which costs a lot, especially here in Germany, but it's also about the storage in the cloud. Because if you take a city like Munich with around 600 buses, you get 300 gigabyte a day, which comes up to 9 terabyte per month. And that's a lot if you calculate over the whole year and years. And the question is the data you're collecting necessary? Do you really need the data? Which in the first place, perhaps is a strange question, because big data, everybody knows more data is better. But in the end, not really, because is it necessary to know the door status of a bus like every 10 times per second? I think not. So if it comes to this example, you can see on the left down side, it's like 550,000 events per day for the door status, and it can be reduced. It can be reduced by keeping the same amount of information. That's why we developed a software component for our gateway, which then in the end filters kind of the information. So it's designed that you can remotely say, okay, I need this data I don't need to be transmitted, and this data perhaps in a lower frequency. And in the end, you can transmit the data with the same amount of information, like 160 times or more efficient. And last but not least, Matthias, you mentioned it already. It's very important for us also with this product. We don't want to build a lock-in system. We don't want to have a black box. We are very open for our customers how we do it, to also see, tell them the data how we get the data, and the data is by our customers, the ownership by our customer. And that's very important for us in the end. And to sum it up, not only in the area of public transportation in general, for us, IoT definitely a chance.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Jungermann, for giving us some insights into IoT at Pi Labs and what we can do with IoT in buses. But first of all, I would like to go back to the first speech and share some informations with all of us. It's from Ricardo Bobo. I think he's from Brazil, because he wrote, "We have this driving behavior in insurance companies' apps already working in Brazil. Zurich Insurance," sounds like a Swiss insurance, "Zurich Insurance uses to gives us discount. If you agree to share, you win." That's nice, but I think they do it with a mobile phone. Okay, interesting. But it's the discussion about dedicated hardware versus some hardware where you have to do a lot of pre-processing to guarantee a certain quality of service. All right, but let's switch to the actual presentation. And there is a question from Professor Andreas Riener. He is a colleague of mine. Welcome to our session. He asks, "You discussed that improved driving behavior has an influence on the perception of passengers, feels smoother ride. Is this something that you have analyzed in the presented study in Munich? If so, which methods were used?"
Yes, so to be honest, no, we didn't have a study on this. I personally use the public transportation a lot, and I think everybody knows how it feels like when the bus driver goes like this, and everybody has to really hold on to the handrail. This was also the feedback from the companies we were working with, and not only my personal perspective. So that's also without the incentive program or in the end the information. This is the way the bus drivers are educated and are told how to drive, because this is of course a goal for the public transportation company anyway, that in the end the end customer feels comfortable during the ride. So this definitely will improve and this section, because the driver knows, okay, I brake too harsh and accelerate too harsh, which is in a bus most likely less terrible than braking. But so in the end, this is a benefit coming out of it. But to answer the question, no, we didn't really research on it.
And Mr. Riener has also a second remark, which is astonishing. Also, the route chosen has a big impact on fuel consumption. UPS, for instance, avoids left turns and saves with rerouting about 10% of fuel in the city. I didn't know that. Would this be a feasible approach for public buses? Routes are static. This could easily be implemented.
Yeah, the tricky part is, of course, you have to have a bus stop. So it's not so easy to change the routes during the city.
We have to change the bus stops.
More long-term project, yes.
Yes.
So this definitely is a topic for the public transportation companies, at least the ones we are talking about. And also they are discussing ideas like being on time, don't have a schedule anymore, drive when it is needed, and there the data is even more important, because you can know when it's necessary for a train or a bus to be there, because there are a lot of people waiting. But in the end, as you can then with the data you are acquiring, know how much energy the route takes, and then it's more easy to change the routes on a long-term basis and perhaps move the bus stops, but in the end will be a big effort.
All right, and there was a second topic that I would like to address. You talked about predictive maintenance. In the first step, you put in additional hardware, additional software, so it costs you money. but the idea is, if I understand you correctly, this could be used for predictive maintenance, and so in the end saves us money.
Yes, definitely. As mentioned, I know that the buses, when they have something like a security issue with the doors, that they don't close anymore, they have to be exchanged, as mentioned. And this costs a lot of money in the procedure, and we have to have an additional driver driving the bus back and forth. And of course, you can you can reduce downtimes in the workshop as you are aware of what problem the bus has, and you can prepare to fix it and pre-order parts, as mentioned. And in the end, I'm convinced that it pays off.
So a lot of possibilities, costs you money, but in the end, hopefully it saves you more money.
Definitely.
All right. So I would like to switch to the next speaker.
Thank you, Harald. Thank you, Mr. Jungermann, for this interesting presentation.
You're welcome.
Now we switch to Dr. Andrea Nobbe. It's the third presentation talking about agility and how agile methods are working in the rigid environment of truck development.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So the stage is yours.
Yes, I'm talking on behalf of Pixida. I'm responsible for the project management group, and I would like to report about some customer that has addressed us with a problem. The customer was facing a big challenge because the management of the customer has decided to build a new truck generation, and this new truck generation should be presented only 1.5 years later on a big fair for trucks. So normally between a concept idea and first prototypes there's 2 to 3 years that development takes place. But in this case, the development should be much faster. So we have to speed up a lot. The goal was to bring 3 prototypes on the fair and really show the company as the #1 of truck producers. So management was thinking how to reach that goal, and they heard of agile methods that could help. So the management was very happy and cheering and saying, wow, this is a good idea. We take agile methods, because as agile methods might save resources, might save time, and thus save money. And that's what the management always likes. But there was a problem, because the company was a very traditional company developing after waterfall methods, and they didn't know about agile methodology, and they didn't have any example in their company how to do that. So they came to the idea to ask Pixida, because Pixida is developing its own products with agile methods, and we also have consultants who are Scrum Masters or product owners. So we started at the company giving a workshop of 2 days for the core team that was already established for the project. And we explained them about the agile mindset, about agile working methods, etc. And we also got feedback from them on what they would expect from agile, and what should be improved, and what were their concerns and expectations. Then an intensive phase started, traveling to the customer. 2 consultants have done that, and they were analyzing everything around the project first, because if you want to apply an agile method, it is very important that you apply the right one that suits to your company. It's not that agile always works the same. There are different methodologies, different approaches. You have to structure the team, etc. So don't think that you read a book about agile and then you just implement this 100%. It has to fit to your company. So our consultants were talking to all the project members. They were analyzing the requirements of the project, the surroundings, the requirements for management also on reporting, controlling topics. They were talking to the team. And then after some 2 months, it was a lot of time to analyze. They prepared some proposal, discussed it with the team, adopted it, and again, and then in the end, we got a structure. So basically, the truck was developed by a core team, which was also having this workshop. It was guided by a project manager who was at the same time the product owner, the chief product owner, because he was a very technical guy, and he knows about everything about the truck development. And the core team consisted of some other departments that were necessary to develop this project. So there were people also from the basic construction teams, naturally, but also from purchasing, from prototyping, from testing, etc. So this was the core team, and all members were 100% dedicated to the project. We invented Scrum as a method for the team to work. And we had a Scrum team with a core team and 3 sub-teams who were working also in Agile. So they were working also with Scrum. It was for the cabin, the electric, and the chassis, because these 3 departments had most of the impact on the new truck generation. They were all synchronized, so we made kind of Scrum of Scrum. They were synchronized in a way that people were having the product owners of the cabin was also part of the core team and of the electric too, and they were synchronized also in timing of their Scrum cycles. But still, people were asking, how can a truck really be developed agile? Because a truck is not a piece of software. A piece of software is something, if after 2 weeks you can show something to the user and ask the user, do you like it or do you not like it? For a truck, it's a little bit difficult because a truck has a lot of mechanical parts that need a lot of time to be developed and to be produced. So what was our approach? First, we also tried to build up prototypes of anything. We made like little 3D models with a 3D scanner. We built up the whole cabin from wood just to make the people to experience as soon as possible how the final product would look like. Then an important thing, if you want to develop something like a truck in an agile method, is the interfaces. You should fix the interfaces first so that any part that is attaching to the interface can be free to be developed differently, but it must still be able to connect to the other part. So the interface is very important. Then purchasing was playing a very big role also because, yeah, I told you lead times for these items are very long. Purchasing had from management the guide to, to speed up and not to save money. Purchasing has chosen suppliers who were able to build things based on 3D models only, not on final drawings. So we didn't have to wait until final drawings were all fine and certified and everything, but they contacted the supplier to speed up and to bring up parts as soon as possible. Then another thing was people were showing their results during the reviews. As you know, for Scrum, we have Scrum reviews after each cycle of 2 weeks in this case. So people were not just talking about, oh, I have done this, but they were showing their work to the others. So people were showing their actual 3D model and asking the colleagues, look, I have attached this pipe like this here. And people, the other team members were directly giving feedback. Normally, you get a work package, you work on it 3 months, you construct something, and then you have a quality check with some quality guy and team members. But in this case, we got constantly feedback on everything. Then for the prototype, we also used old parts and somehow handcrafted, painted it, changed it, just to make the product grow up as soon as possible to make it, experience, to see it, to watch it, to touch it. So we use a lot of fantasy also. And like this, we could bring also potential customers like truck drivers to our models and give feedback already. That is also something very important in agile development, that you constantly get feedback from the end user to improve your product. But what about the team? The team was used to a different kind of methodology. And how did they feel? So there were a lot of issues for the team. They need to change their mindset, really. They were not used to the agile development. So one issue was punctuality. In agile, we have a lot of meetings in Scrum. So we have dailies, we have reviews, we have retrospectives, and people at the beginning somehow tended to be a little bit late sometimes. So if a daily only takes 15 minutes and there are 9 people coming together sharing important information and 3 of them are 10 minutes late, they soon experience that they lose a lot of information. We didn't wait for 10 minutes for everybody to join. We started when the daily should start. So they were educated to be punctual. And this worked very well because they also gave feedback to each other on punctuality. Another thing was if you have a daily of 15 minutes and everyone should report about his progress, people tended to explain a lot of things that they did the last week just to report what was the great working day look like. But they should focus more. We wanted to them to focus on what is important to share with the team, what is information others need, and others could also respond something. So we got them very much more focused. This was also done by feedback to the team and this retrospectives. We also got them much better prepared for the meeting. So they made themselves notes what to bring to the team meeting and also notes what to take out of the team meeting. In this, in normal development, or often people tend to, make someone else responsible for something and not to say, yes, I will do it. I'm the one who can do it. It was also a little bit a problem of culture that people were having their work package and they had to work on it, and they could not really be creative. In Agile, this is different. Everyone gets a lot of responsibility and everyone must take decisions. So this was also a big change for a lot of people in this project. That they should really stand up and say, yes, it's my task, I will do it. Last thing was about feedback. At the beginning, we tried to have a feedback meeting, and people, they were a little bit shy. They reported about, what are my technical concerns? They didn't really talk about how we work together, how is our working environment, how what are the real problems in the project. So this was also changed, and this was a real success also, because me personally, I joined the team 1 year later, and I made the retrospectives, and they really didn't tell anything anymore because everything was working. But at the beginning, there were a lot of topics that they issued. Like they missed some directors from management. Then the product owner went to management and said, my team is missing this. And he came back to the team and repaired. They had not a good working situation because they were sitting in a big construction hall. It was cold. Then they changed this. So they got really a lot of feedback, also how to work together, how to communicate, how to bring information from A to B, etc. And this was also a very good success, to be more open to give constructive feedback. Yeah, so all together, the project was a big success. Unfortunately, Corona came in this year, so the fair would have been in June, but it was then declined. And moreover, the company had to do short-time work, so the project could not speed until the fair, but they at least constructed one prototype and finished this, and they are now working on the serial to bring it to serial production, all the 3 prototypes. I can say that it was a lot of fun to work with this company, because you really experience the change in the people, and they were really happy to experience that too, to work on such a new model. And I think they really liked it. And I can only say Agile can also work in such an environment, and it's worth to try out.
Thanks a lot. That was very interesting, because it's something totally new, at least for me. Because if I hear Agile, I think about computers and software, not about hardware. And also a very impressive thing from my point of view, because I worked in car industry and I know the development process is, let's say, 36 months or 40 months, and that's it. And if you speed up by factor 2, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's not a promise that it will always work.
But it's really amazing. But also, you talked about culture. First of all, you meet a lot of people who are used to work in a certain environment with certain methods, certain speed, and they're used to the product development process. And how do you get them to switch to something totally new?
I cannot really tell you how we did, but I don't know. We somehow created a working environment where people have noticed that their opinion is worth something, their feedback is worth something. They all work together, and with a big motivation, they can really speed up. I don't know. There was a big a hype around it. There were people wanting to join because they heard of the others that it's such a nice atmosphere in the project team.
And something's moving.
Yeah.
Going on.
Yes.
All right. There's an interesting question from Wilson Bricio. What is the one most important basis to implement agile management? Does it apply only to projects, or can this be a daily way of working? By the way, Wilson is from Brazil. And the next question would be, okay, that was somewhere in Germany, Austria, I don't know. But what about an international team?
Olá, Wilson, eu falo também português.
Wow.
So, yeah. I always differ a little bit between managing a project in an agile way and developing a product in an agile way. So managing anything can be done in an agile way. Traditionally, I think you know that there are team meetings like every 2 weeks with someone, every 1 week, something. You have some review meetings, but in agile, if you choose, for example, Scrum as a methodology to guide your project, you would do it differently. You would bring people together daily and shortly talk about things. You would ask people not. You will not give them a task that is longing 3 months, but you would say, I will cut the task in pieces so that after 2 weeks, the person can bring some feedback and deliver some progress. And then you have to really cut the task in pieces and regularly talk about it and report. And I think it's a very nice way to manage a team differently. Not to work with a real open point list anymore with long items that are then forgotten, but to really cut your project into cycles of two weeks, for example, or 3 weeks. It's also something that you have to check for your project what is suitable. But this is a very nice way to manage a project, I think.
All right, and the role you played as a company was you have the experience in agile methods and you brought it to the company who knows how to build cars, lorries,
yes.
trucks, I don't know, and but they don't know about agile methods. So you teach them how to do agile work.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, and the most important thing is that we didn't tell them this is our method, take it. But we were listening to them. We were analyzing their company structure, their needs, everything, and then we got the best fit for them because there are different ways to do agile.
So it's interesting to use something that comes from software development and transport it to other technologies or other industries.
Yes.
All right. So thanks a lot. And now I would like to continue with the next speaker.
Yes, the next and the last speaker. Thank you, Andrea Norbert. It was really interesting. Wilson, you can invite her to Brazil if you want to know more, knowing she is talking Portuguese. So now let's switch to Brazil. Our long-lasting partner, Manuel Steidle from CERTI Research Foundation, located in a lovely island called Florianópolis in southern Brazil. He's a partner of our network since the very beginning of our network, and he will tell us now more about IoT opportunities in Brazil, especially at electrical vehicle charging stations. So Manuel, we're listening to you. Let's have a switch.
Hi, I am Manuel Steidle from Brazil. I am head of technology of CERTI Foundation at Florianópolis, Santa Catarina. I want to say thank you for the kind invitation to be participating at this very nice Congress. AWARE+SHARE is a very good inspiration. And I want to discuss with you today how IoT, internet can come together with a new topic, electrical vehicle charging, and how we can connect these two things to have good service, good quality, low cost, and remain at the main point, happy and safe users Here, maybe we have some IoT also. I believe that is 7G or something like this. But some ideas, I believe, are the same. Here, I believe we have some diagnostics to make the test. We have some service to improve the working of this one. And as I was a child, it was a nice thing to see. And now I am surprised that Embraer showed on the same workshop that maybe this can be possible. My topic is not the recharging of flight vehicles. My topic is recharging of common vehicles. And yes, the structure of my presentation I want to share with you is to show the Brazilian panorama about charging vehicles, charging stations. Our practical experience, CERTI already made the infrastructure and operation of some charging stations. Here we learned a lot. We are developing now, with one of the main producers of this in Brazil, new charging stations. So we are learning about this. Here the main topic of my presentation, what are the use cases and possible application scenarios for IoT? And at the end, increase our awareness and sharing of ideas on this topic I am presenting. First point, what is the context? Brazil has now 5,500 chargers. They were put on the place by car manufacturers and energy utilities. They are not so much with high power, so only 1% is fast charging. 12% are public, so you can go there and use it without any other limitation. Here we have a special point. We have the Agency for Energy who looks for investments on R&D made by the energy concessionaries. That are the main resources that pay this infrastructure, as we don't have a solid business model for this now. This business model is evolving. We have regulation since 2 years, and we are starting to discuss how the business models, how the payment, how all of this will be working to make a sustainable system and service working for you. What is the geography we have to look for, and what are the big distances? Brazil is quite big. We have 4,000 kilometers here, other 4,000 kilometers here. But the electrical car use is more on south. Here we can see we have at the moment 3 main axes. The first one was made by Celeste with the help of CERTI. Here we have also Copel connecting the region of Curitiba with Paraguay. And the main industrial and business axis here in Brazil, Rio, São Paulo, is here. We see that there are not so much charging stations, 35, but it will be 3 times more in the next 2 years. CERTI is also working here on our state, making a line more on south. Here we have the connection to Paraguay. We will look for the connection with Argentina. In the presentation, we heard about the electric cars in Argentina. So that's very good. We can offer for a tourist who comes from Argentina. Here, Florianopolis is very nice. We have here a very nice sea. And they can visit us, I hope, also with electric car and the infrastructure we are building. Okay, what we learned with this and how IoT can be useful in this context of infrastructure and planning a trip. The first point is you have to plan it, as there are not so much places to charge your car. You have to be patient, you have to wait a little bit, not every station is high power, so yes, you will drink a lot of coffee. What IoT can help you? Here I made a study between Florianopolis and Asunción. That is a long way, almost 20 hours of travel. And how IoT can plan help us here. It can help us in the route planning. The best way of this is that this works automatically. The car says me, yes, you should stop, you can go ahead. So don't have critical decisions made by myself. Reservation, I believe it's very important that you can reach a place and have some guarantee that you will be on the right moment to charge your car. If you have to wait, IoT also can help you to reduce the overall time doing fast payments. Here the infrastructure is not so good. If I'm traveling here from Florianopolis to Asunción, there are some places that don't have mobile internet. So I believe that the charging station also can be an internet access point, can be very nice. You can do the download, upload. You can maybe communicate your smart car with the internet. That are points that are important. And if you see here for the range, some diagnostic and the safe range extension to don't have some trouble on places that are not so near the next charging stations. So the first insight for planning and route, yes, IoT can do this job. Okay, the next point we learned working with charging stations in Brazil, the infrastructure is limited. If you look here, we have the main installations aerial. The performance is not so good. If you have strong wind and a tree falls down, it can interrupt this. The power of these trafos are not so big. They are between 200 and 300 kilowatt. So yes, if here a small city or a gas station is connected, maybe there is not enough energy for your car. The investment potential of the utility is also not so good, so it will not change so fast. And additionally, we have seasonality. So as I told, sometimes tourists, sometimes not tourists. Sometimes we have less rain. A lot of our power is hydropower. So yes, you need a stable net. What we can do for this and what IoT can do for this, here we have an example. We made a pilot project connecting a big battery pack here, 50 kilowatts, to the charging station, enabling here the exchange between the grid and local energy. And this helped a lot the owner of the gas station to don't invest so much on this. Yes, what you need for this is smart metering in the IoT, vehicle to the car, to the grid, and also to the internet. Automation of decentralized energy production. Yes, you can have decentralized energy here near, and you can automate it with IoT. And overall control of the consumer connected to intelligent market, looking for good business models. Yes, and the third insight, first was planning, second was grid, The third is that you should connect the energy ecosystem with the internet ecosystem, thinking about how these two complex things can be connected. Here we have the idea that if you make a model, you will start looking for the IoT device not only as a smart electronics, but it is connected. You have to look for regulation, you have to look for business model, you have to have in the other ecosystem energy, how it is connected. And if you start making this interconnection, you can do a highly value-added solution using IoT. The idea is to have good modeling, simulation, and to develop efficient and available and cost-affordable solutions for the charging. An interesting example we have here is a study we made for shopping malls. Shopping malls in Brazil use a big amount of energy. Sometimes it's very hot here, so they need air conditioning. You have some decisions behind the air conditioning. Here we have ice machines. So you use the time of cheap energy to produce ice. Then this ice you use to cool the shopping mall. And if you connect it together with the charging station, together with the air conditioning, together with a smart metering, looking when the energy is expensive or not, you can do an interesting overall solution using IoT, using services of the telecom company, selling data, using well the network, making good transmission. And that's the main message of my presentation. The main point of using good IoT at charging stations is the interconnection of the energy ecosystem and the internet ecosystem. Yes, that are the main points. We discussed our infrastructure. We have the grid, how we can make the charging with not so good grid. And the third point, how we can connect the energy ecosystem with the internet ecosystem. Yes, that are the main points. The next one is how we can increase our awareness about this, how we can share ideas. Here I have a very special moment. That was our very first station in front of our building. We, in these days, had a summer course here made by Professor Schweiger. We also had the pleasure of the visit of Anne-Sophie. And yes, in this special moment, we started to do this job. And here I want to remark a networking that is far beyond the 5G and these things. That is the networking between people. It's a very special networking, a very special interconnection, very, very, yes, smart nodes that are we. And the endpoint, young students, motivated, that want to do the job and want to learn. And I hope we'll do a very good job making the cars working more efficient and avoiding carbon emissions, remaining with good transport and safety. Thank you. Danke. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado, Manuel.
Thanks, Manuel. Obrigada. Now we can ask some questions still. I think we have in total like 15 minutes left. Manuel, if you can just open your camera so people have the chance to direct a question to you.
In the meantime, I would like to ask you some questions because you were talking about infrastructure, the charging stations and electric cars. And for me, it seems to be a problem of hen and egg. We need cars so that somebody feels motivated to invest into charging stations, and we need charging stations so that somebody feels motivated to buy an electric car. Have you an idea how to solve that?
Thank you for the question. It's very good. The first point is we need public-private partnerships. So it's not possible to finance it only by selling energy. So you need to do it. We have here some opportunities. As I told, there is some regulation for the electric companies that have to reinvest some amount of the revenues in infrastructure. And we are working just with this. So my answer is yes, of course. Like the traditional gas stations, you have a lot of infrastructure, but it was a very long time to build it up. And yes, we have to do the same work doing public-private partnership.
You showed us how we could travel from west to east, no, from east to west, sorry, through Brazil, long way. Are there any other possibilities? Because you showed us long range. What about short range? Are there any ideas to use electric mobility, for example, in the cities? Do you see any possibilities there?
Yes, the urban mobility is maybe much more easier to implement. I showed this case as it was looking for cars. So if I am a car owner, I sometimes want to travel more than 100, 150 kilometers away. So that's this perspective from a car owner. But we have very interesting market niches here in Brazil for small cars that will be only urban. And another one, you don't have it so much in Europe. We believe on this are scooters and small motorcycles driven by electric energy, as we have a big delivery business in Brazil. So I myself, I believe that it will be interesting in urban context, looking for small cars, and yes, between electrical bicycle and motorcycle, something like this, where the infrastructure is not so critical.
All right, and let's have a look at Internet of Things. The first message you told us was, if you live in a big country like Brazil, then it makes more sense, or it's necessary to plan ahead, and we can use Internet of Things to use it to plan ahead, plan our trip ahead. That's yes. One thing I understood. And the next thing I understood was it's about distribution. You thought about local power plants which have a kind of buffer for a battery if something breaks down. That's correct? That's your idea?
Exactly. You can use the intelligence or the distributed intelligence of IoT to manage this kind of challenge. For us, the most interesting is the smart grid, so that you can plan better and control better the network. Thinking about solar energy, sometimes you will have very good additional energy to manage. Then you have the IoT, and of course you should connect it to the business model. For example, if I'm charging my car with strong sun at this moment, I can have a business model that the cost will be reduced. And I myself will through IoT, make the transaction have a good service and a good business model working.
And so IoT is also connected to 5G, the network we are working on in Germany. And I think in Brazil, you're far ahead of us. Any comments on that?
So in some points we have pilot projects of IoT of 5G in big cities. So the 4G infrastructure in Brazil is sometimes 5G ready. So we can do it in these cities. The 5G we have at the moment in Brazil is not long reach. So we are working with 3.5 gigahertz, and the reach is not so big. It's not much more bigger than Wi-Fi. So it is 200, 300 meters. So it makes more sense in the urban environment. But we don't make so big difference between 5G and 4G for this IoT questions, as many of the solutions can also be done with 4G.
All right, and then we need some storages like Pixida provides us with, so that we can collect data, and when we have 4G or 5G connections, then we can just send the data into the grid and to the cloud.
Exactly.
Right.
The way of connecting is not critical.
Questions here from the stage, Mr. Jungermann.
Yes, thank you. I hope the microphone is still working. So thank you for the interesting presentation. You mentioned that it's very important to plan the route, and I totally understand because of the range. But then if you get there, it's very important that the charging station is free, it's available. So I'm asking because we are working also with connected sensor application when it comes to the parking lots. And this is a topic with all the electromobility, especially in cities. Normal cars are parking at the electric spots and block it, and nobody knows. So we have connected sensors which tell, you can combine, of course, the information if the car is charged or not, and tell live in the app if it's available or not. At least people know that they're not able to charge their car there. So do you have also sensors available that people know, okay, I don't have to go there, drive there?
Yeah, as we are developing the charging station, we are working close to the equipment builder. So we already put IoT inside the charging station. Yes, then we can do two IoTs, the IoT of the charging station and the IoT of the car. And yeah, we need some smart business guys that they will give you a discount if you have not so heavy use. If you are doing touristic, maybe you are more tolerant than a business driver. If you are have to have a route that is very important for you, if you are from a doctor who want to go to a hospital or something like this, you need a priority to have the charging station for you. And I believe if we connect these things together and if we have a different price for different use cases, it can be a very, very interesting application case.
All right, so I just saw a question from the chat to all members. Maybe everyone could, if there's an answer, give a short answer to this last question for now. From Marcio Rodrigo Santos to all, since the power to weight ratio is important for electric cars, will there be a trend towards lighter cars in the future? Is it a trend? Who wants to go first?
All right. One thing certainly is, if you look at the state of now, we have to deal with crash regulations, and we have to make sure that the car fulfills all crash regulations. And so the car weight, that means the amount of aluminum or steel that we have to put inside of the car, is limited to a lower limit, because we have to supply a good amount of safety and to the passengers. That's one thing. On the other hand, you're totally right. The power to weight ratio is one key issue. And if number one on my personal wish list would be a battery with much better power to weight ratio. Because if the battery is lighter, then automatically you have a bigger range. But to be honest, most of our cars are used only a limited amount or a limited range. Typically in Germany, you drive less than 40 kilometers per day. Apart from our guests who came from Munich, which just destroyed the statistics now. But typically you drive, let's say, less than 50 kilometers. So typically you don't need a big battery, but that's only about typically. Maybe you want to flee because your mother-in-law is approaching. And so you want to drive as fast and as far as you can get, you know. Maybe that's a typical German point of view that you need a car with a big range. Typically, for small cars, you don't need it. But that's an application that depends on the car. If you have a small car that is for a city, local, urban application, then it's not so important to have a big range. If you're driving a Tesla and you want to go from Germany, from Munich to Hamburg, yeah, then you need a big battery, and then you have a big battery and all the problems that occur with that. Sorry for the long explanation.
Our moderator is expert as well.
A little bit.
Anyone else who wants to answer or give another comment? Or Manuel?
Yeah, my answer would be
Yes.
I like to have an electrical bicycle.
You have to differentiate between the mobility. Where you want to go. Usually electromobility is, of course, makes a lot of sense in urban cities. And if you have a look at the streets, it's kind of terrible that it feels like 90% of the cars, only one person sitting in there. And there's a lot of room around this person, which is not necessary in this moment. So I think it's not only lighter cars, also smaller cars, vehicles, let's say. And this is the trend has to be faced, I think, in the urban environment, that people are mobile, individual mobile still because they need it. This will take place anyway, but you have to offer concepts where perhaps people can go electric and even save room on the streets and spare more room for bicycles or electric scooters, whatever, or pedestrians, of course. And this will save a lot of weight as well if you make it smaller.
Let's say technologically we can do a lot, but it's also a problem in our brains. If the customers want a big car, okay, we might convince him or her, but maybe he or she likes the big car, and then we can do whatever we like. We can say, okay, a small car makes more sense, but the customer is king in this case.
Manuel also wants to give an answer. We were informed. So Manuel, go ahead.
It was almost the same answer. I like to ride a bicycle. So for me, the best way of having a lightweight structure is having things like scooters and bicycles and in a safe way. That's a big challenge in Brazil, as our traffic is not so safe. So you should create also to enable scooters, e-bikes, and these things, urban infrastructure to be safe. Not only looking for the charging, but also looking for the safety of these lightweight vehicles.
All right, thank you, Manuel. I think we have come to an end. It's 6 o'clock. So, Harald, you want to say some last words?
I'd like to say thank you to all of you. I'd like to say thank you to all the speakers and moderators. And I want to thank you, the public, for your questions that forced us to say a lot about that. And if you like our sessions, you could subscribe to our LinkedIn channel and give us feedback on our event survey. You can also recommend our sessions, please. And you can find all recorded sessions soon on our website.
So as AWARE+SHARE was really a success, we would like to repeat it. but maybe once a year, maybe a hybrid or virtual mixture. So if you have any ideas, help us to organize it. Get in touch with us. If you know good speakers, why not from Mexico or Colombia next year? We are here, get in touch with us, and let's organize it together. I really enjoyed the organization of this event. It was fun. Thanks to the speakers who all accepted immediately when we invited them. Thanks to Alexander Ballmann, who was there from the very beginning, from Pixida. Also, thank you to all our cooperation partners. And last but not least, our AWARE team.
And thank you for our guests today.
Thanks
Thank you
for our
being
guests
here.
today, of course. A lot of thank yous. Just to mention our team, Elena, who was doing excellent marketing. So we had a lot of registrations.
Yeah, Marcelo, thanks for the Zoom management.
Then
Lisa?
Lisa, who was always there for the chat questions and helped you to get the certificates.
A special thank you to you, Anne-Sophie, for your visions, for your motivation, and for the hard work.
Thank you, Harald, and also thank you for your bright ideas and always solving our last-minute problems.
So thanks a lot.
We would have liked to invite you now for a beer and have some snacks. This was the original idea, but as you said, Corona came. So we are here now. Let's do it another day when it's possible again. And I would say we see you in our next session. Thank you.
Thank you.